Hello, this is part 3 of the Mental Strength Yin series. We're going to start in a comfortable seated position. You should have a couple blocks nearby and maybe even a folded blanket. So you can come into your comfortable seated position, allow your eyes to softly close. Your hands can just rest on your knees. Take a couple breaths here to allow your awareness to begin to draw inward. Feel your body beginning to relax and surrender. Feel a little bit more ease in your breath. And see if you can begin to calm and create space in your mind. From here, we're going to move into our butterfly pose. So it's a seated position, a seated forward fold. You can elevate your hips on a folded blanket if you'd like. It kind of helps you take a little bit more advantage of gravity here, especially if your hips are a bit tighter. You can grab a couple blocks, bring the soles of your feet together, and scooch your heels away from you so you create a long diamond shape with your legs. You can use 2 of your blocks or pillows or any props to support underneath your thighs. This supports our legs, so the muscles in the legs and the hips feel comfortable enough to relax. And you can place some blocks or props in between your legs to support your forehead. You can move a bit of the flesh away from your sit bones if you'd like. Fingertips come behind. On an inhale, reach your chest forward. Begin to hinge forward. Create a forward tilt in your pelvis. On an exhale, you can round the upper back and continue to slowly round yourself into the pose until you feel your body begin to resist. So this is your edge, and stack your blocks to an appropriate height so that they can support your forehead. Just that simple pressure against our forehead encourages our body to relax. Allow the shoulders to feel nice and heavy. On an exhale, feel them drawing down towards the ground as the shoulder blades move away from the spine. Soften the back of your neck. Soften the muscles in your face. Allow your arms to become limp. And release the muscles in the legs and the hips. See if you can come to a place where your blocks or props can completely support you and that there is no need for any muscular engagement. Whenever you notice that you're beginning to become a little bit too comfortable in the pose, it can be a sign of your body beginning to open up. So you can adjust yourself, just slight minor adjustments to your blocks or props to allow yourself to deepen a little bit further until you feel yourself reach your edge once again. You want to keep in mind that your yin practice is not supposed to be comfortable. You always want to have a bit of discomfort in the body and allow your mind to work on tolerating that discomfort. We'll hold here just a few more breaths. Allow yourself to really take advantage of every single exhale. Notice how each exhale is an opportunity to surrender and soften further. If you notice that your mind is particularly active, Just recognize when the mind begins to drift away and just constantly remind it to come back to your mat. And on your next inhale, moving nice and slow, begin to roll yourself back up. You can move your props to one side. You can bring your hands behind you, slowly release your legs. You can bring the soles of the feet about mat width apart and just release the legs from side to side. Moving nice and slowly to the pace of your own breath, allowing the knees to fall to one side on the exhales, bringing the knees back up on the inhales. When you're ready, you can make your way into a tabletop position, so you can swing the legs around and come forward, or cross the legs and roll onto the knees to come forward into a tabletop position, whatever your preference is. Hands are going to come underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. We're going to go through a short dragon series where we work into the hips. We're going to start on the right side, so bring the right foot forward, coming into a low lunge on the right side. Both hands come to the inside of the right foot. You can pad underneath that left knee if you need to. This is called our low flying dragon. You can completely release the back of your neck here. Allow the head to just dangle if that's comfortable for you. What we want to focus on here is just beginning to surrender the hips down. Begin to release in the hips. See if you can create a bit of heaviness here. Make sure both hips are even. Sometimes that right hip has to pull back slightly to stay even, and we also want to make sure that that right knee is not going past the right ankle. We want the right ankle directly below the knee, or the ankle can be in front of the knee. Make sure to be conscious and aware of where your edge lies here. If you feel like you can deepen slightly while still maintaining softness in the hips, you have the opportunity to do so. On an inhale, you can make yourself back up onto your palms if you lowered onto your elbows. We're going to come into our winged dragon. So we rotate the toes diagonally out. Flex the foot as you roll onto the outside edge of your foot. Allow the knee to open up here. Soften that right hip flexor. It may want to clench. And again, see if you can find some softness in your hips. See if you can create a little bit more softness. You can release the head down. If you don't feel like you're quite at your edge, you can slowly lower yourself, keeping in mind that if you feel the sensations present in the pose, then there is no need to go any further. Good. On your next inhale, slowly make your way out of the pose. Send that right foot back. Bring your hands back underneath the shoulders and just gently let the hips sway from side to side. Looking over the opposite shoulder, let the hips drop. Creating some nice gentle sensations on the outer hips here as you let them drop from side to side. We'll come back to center, tuck the toes under, and we're going to come into a nice soft down dog here. So knees can stay nice and bent as you send the hips up and back, creating length in the sides of your body and in the spine. You can pedal out the feet, even a gentle wag from side to side, letting the hips sway from side to side can feel really nice. Hands are firmly pressing into your mat. Good. On an exhale, knees can come down. We're going to make our way into our pigeon pose, or our sleeping swan as we call it in yin. So slide the right knee forward to the outside of the right wrist. Create an internal rotation in that hip by scooching that right heel towards the left hip flexor. Here, most important is to make sure that the hips are nice and even. If both hips don't comfortably reach the ground, then use a prop to support underneath the right hip so that the body or the muscles don't have to be engaged. The use of a prop allows the muscles around the hips to release. When you feel ready, you can slowly lower yourself down here, maybe coming onto the elbows or lowering all the way to the floor if that's available to you. You just want to be conscious as you lower yourself down, not to rush forward. You'll notice that we can load the knee. The weight will come forward into the knee. We want to prevent that. We want to keep the weight back in the hips. And again, your job here is to completely surrender. You can do a quick scan of your body. Notice where any tension lies. Are there muscles engaging that you can work on softening? Are you furrowing your eyebrows or clenching your jaw? With each exhale, work on surrendering a bit more of your weight down onto your mat. So here we're creating an external rotation in the right hip. We're also creating a bit of length in the left hip flexor. So we'll feel the sensations beginning to grow on that outer right hip and the left hip flexor. If you notice that you have a hard time surrendering, notice if you can support your body in any way. Can you use your props to fill in the gaps, whether it's under the forehead, the chest, the belly, under the hip? Is there any place that your body is craving a little bit of extra support? When our body feels supported, the muscles are encouraged to relax. They release the need to have to be engaged to support the body because the job is being done by something else. Commit first to being physically still, and then see if you can commit to being mentally still. Remember not to resist the sensations, but to allow them to take you outside your comfort zone. Very good. We're going to stay here for just a few more breaths. Take a moment to notice if you have any resistance in the body. Can you release it for these last few breaths? Good, and on your next inhale, moving as slowly as you need to, begin to make your way back up onto your palms. Slowly slide yourself back into a tabletop position. Knees under the hips, wrist creases under the shoulders, and again we'll let the hips gently sway from side to side. Some yang movements between long periods of yin and stillness can be a really nice release for the body. And take a moment to feel and notice the effects of the pose. What lingering sensations do you feel? And how does the right side compare to the left side? Or how does it compare to how it felt before? Good. When you're ready, we're going to make our way into our short dragon series like we did on the right side. So you can pad underneath that right knee if you need to and bring that left leg forward. Coming into a low lunge position with both hands to the inside of the left knee. Make sure hips are square. You can stay on your palms here for a few breaths to start. If you feel like you're not quite at your edge, then you can begin to lower yourself down. Maybe walk the hands forward or begin to bend the elbows, maybe bringing them onto a block or onto your mat. Remembering to release your ego, understanding that we want to release any attachments that we may have to the look of the pose and allow the feel and the sensations of the pose to guide us to the appropriate depth. So allow yourself to create some softness in the hips here. Allow the sensations to begin to grow in that outer left hip and right hip flexor. On an exhale, soften that mid and upper back. Allow it to sink down. Good. And on an inhale, slowly make your way back up onto your palms if you're not already there. We'll make our way to our winged dragon. Toes rotate out. Flex the foot as you roll onto the outside edge of the foot and allow the knee to open up, making sure that you're creating softness in that left hip flexor. See if you can create a little bit more softness in the hips. Can they sink down a little bit further? Release the neck completely if that was comfortable. And see if you can allow your awareness to just settle on your breath. Very good job. On your next inhale, you can slowly press yourself back up onto your palms if you're not already there. Send that left foot back into your tabletop once again. Release the hips by letting them drop slowly from side to side. The next time that your hips come up to center, tuck the toes under. We'll release in a nice soft down dog. Send the hips up and back, knees stay nice and bent. Focus first on created length in the sides of your body and in the spine. Then you can gently pedal out the feet, sway the hips gently from side to side if that feels nice. Even the head from side to side to release any tension that might be developing in the neck. Good. And on your next exhale, you can begin to bend the knees, bringing them back down onto your mat. We'll make our way into our sleeping swan on the left side. Left knee slides up to the outside of the left wrist and walk that left heel in towards the right hip flexor. So we're creating an external rotation in the hip. Begin to lower the hips, placing any supports that you may need underneath that left hip to keep the hips nice and even. So this keeps us in a very safe place. When you're ready, slowly lowering. You can even press into the floor to send the weight back into the hips as you lower. Allow your forehead to rest on a block or on your mat. Allow yourself to begin to surrender into this pose. Soften the muscles in that extended right leg. So soften the quad, the hamstring. Soften the muscles in that left hip. Let the weight of your body to just surrender down, releasing any muscular engagement so that we can really allow our hips to absorb the benefits of the pose. On an exhale, melt any tension that might exist in the face. Soften the neck. Feel the chest sink down as you soften the muscles in the upper and mid back. Keep your breath nice and calm and quiet. And see if eventually that encourages your mind to also become calm and quiet. Learn to resist the pull of your thoughts. Notice any habits that you have in place. For example, when the sensations reach a certain intensity, do you have the urge to want to physically fidget or constantly readjust? Or do you maybe turn to using your thoughts as distractions to distract you from what's currently occurring in the pose, the sensations or emotions that arise? See if you can begin to become aware of these habits that you have in place, these coping mechanisms. See if you can learn to just be comfortable with the discomfort and find more ease in finding that place of stillness. So, like I said before, we want to keep ourselves in that state of discomfort. So, although we use our props as much as we can to put the body in a comfortable position, meaning that the muscles feel confident that they can release and surrender because they understand that your body is supported, it still provides the opportunity for those uncomfortable sensations to arise in the pose. We just want to make sure that those uncomfortable sensations are not prickling sensations. So, the types of sensations that you would get when you're cutting off blood supply and perhaps maybe your foot is beginning to fall asleep. We want to keep blood flow moving. So, if it requires you to back off or readjust a bit in the pose so that you're not cutting off blood supply, make sure you recognize that as not a sensation that you're trying to achieve in the pose. Awesome. On your next inhale, slowly begin to make your way out of the pose, moving your props out of the way, slowly walking yourself onto your hands and sliding that knee back, coming into your tabletop position. And when you're ready, allowing the hips to slowly sway from side to side, creating that nice yang movement between that long duration of stillness. Or you can choose to do whatever moves your body is craving at this moment. Whenever you feel ready, you can swing your legs forward, make your way onto your back. So we're going to come into our Shavasana. You can choose to lay down flat on your back like a traditional Shavasana, or if you wish, to bring the soles of your feet together and come into a reclined butterfly, maybe with some nice props supporting underneath your thighs. Allow the shoulder blades to soften down your back. Arms can come out to your sides, palms facing up, or they can rest on your belly if that's more comfortable. Allow your eyes to softly close. Completely release the weight of your body down, feeling yourself becoming heavier with each exhale. Really allow the effects of your practice to soak right in. After your next breath, allow your head to gently rock from side to side. Bring some movement to your fingers and your toes. When you're ready, you can remove any props that you're using, hug your knees in, and just roll yourself to your left side. Pause here for a breath. On an inhale, press yourself up into a comfortable seated position. Your palms can meet at your heart center. Your eyes can softly close. Bow your heads forward for a moment. And thank yourself for taking the time to practice today. And thank you for letting me guide you. Namaste.